Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Chinson. I am the festival director and one of the early on adopters of the festival. So excited to have all of you here today. This really is, our sort of foray into sort of this new venture into life with COVID and doing a film festival. We are doing both in person and online, and really excited about this opportunity to continue to nurture and foster the community and audiences that we've built over COVID, and also continue to create opportunities for people to be in person. And I know a number of you will also will be getting to join us in Boston. So excited to actually get to meet you in person. And for those of you who won't be here in Boston, do hope that that will get to happen in the future. But do want to just say thank you so much for all of your films. I know the screening committee has done such a wonderful job in selecting and curating, but one of the best, I feel like visions that the screening committee has really done is that they've picked such warm, personable stories that really express the voices of the diversity of Asians and Asian Americans in North America, and feel that all of your films really represent that. So just wanted to say thank you as artists for contributing to helping to build, an Asian American community and Asian American voice. And so happy that we're here to be able to present you here in Boston.
Hi, my name is Kenny Penguin. I'm part of the Boston Asian American Film Festival. I've been part of the festival for about 9 years now. I've been part of the screening committee, production team, and various other aspects of the festival. We'd like to welcome you to the 2022 Filmmakers Roundtable. We're here with part of our screening committee and many directors from our shorts and feature-length releases. Zhang Wei.
Hi, my name is John Wei Tommy. I've been with the BAAFF screening, mostly screening committee for 8 seasons now. I'm the current program manager for the screening committee. So I was primarily one of the ones to have selected your films for screening, and they're all wonderful masterpieces. So I sincerely hope that you are proud of what you've done. You have all deserved congratulations. And the rest of the team, Nate and Mike.
Yeah, my name is Mike B. This is my 4th season with BAAFF. I'm on the screening and programming committee, as well as co-manager of social media. So not only do I get to watch all the movies, but I also get to write and post about them as well.
And hi, my name's Nate. This is my 2nd year working with BAAFF. I'm on the screening committee, as well as being a stand-up comic and arts activist in Boston in general. Just wanted to congratulate you all for making some amazing films. You've gotten to the finish line, and now we get to talk about it.
I'll go from left to right on my screen, so I'll call people out, and then we can go from there. Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andrea Lewin. I'm the writer and director of Biased. It's a comedic short film set in Koreatown, Los Angeles. And it's about an incompetent apartment manager who mistakenly schedules 2 couples at the same time, and he has to ask a lot of personal questions and a lot of awkward silences and chaos and ensues. So it's a fun little comedic gem.
Thank you. Brandon?
Hi, my name is Brandon Okamura. I'm the director and editor of Maneki, which is a short film about a cashier who, after getting rejected by her favorite customer, has to reconcile her feelings when that customer keeps coming into the ramen shop.
Thank you. Kyle?
Hello, I'm Kyle Credo, and my film is A Lonely Afternoon. It's based on the Filipino-Canadian experience about a young boy seeking companionship at a house blessing at his home.
Kwan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kwan Tao, the writer and director of short film 1992. It's a story based on the true event happened 30 years ago in LA riots. And the story is about a Korean mom and her son reunite together and survive in the LA riots in 1992.
Thank you. Curtis?
I will keep up the Los Angeles parade. My name is Curtis Chin. I am the director, producer, and co-writer of Dear Corky, a short documentary about the incomparable Corky Lee.
Thank you. Patrick?
Hi, my name is Patrick Chen. I'm the director and producer of A Father's Son, a short film based on Henry Chang's crime novel series, Detective Jack Yu. A Father's Son is based on a detective investigating a murder of a child, and he has to come with conflict in the community and to deliver a message to the child's parents in New York Chinatown in the 1990s.
Thank you. And Tom, who is our opening night film.
Hi, I'm Tom Huang. I'm the writer-director of the feature film Dealing with Dad. It's about a family dealing with a depressed dad who's actually nicer depressed than well. So they're just trying to figure out if they should even get him better. And I'm also from Los Angeles.
Thank you. And Chi-Yu?
Hi guys, I'm the writer and director of Big Trouble in Little America. It's a short film about a Chinese girl. She bought a second-hand mattress and she started having sexy wet dreams on the mattress. So in order to keep herself sane, she started on a journey of cleanse the mattress.
Again, filmmakers, thank you very much for joining today, and you made it. You crossed the finishing line with your products, and as I mentioned, I've been screening films for 8 seasons now, and all during this time, I've had 2 burning questions. I'll start off with one of them, and for all filmmakers, shorts and features, how do you get compensated for your wonderful masterpieces?
I guess that's an interesting way of talking about, like, you all made independent films, outside of the studio system with resources,
right?
Scrapping together what you can. I guess
and it doesn't
to transform that, like,
how do you survive?
I guess I'll start. My movie was funded by the Canada Arts Council, or the Council for the Arts. So I didn't need to use any of my money, thankfully. And day job, like I also work in production and do camera work for commercials. So I'm just like, while I do that on my off time, I also write for grants pretty much. And when it gets into some festivals, a few festivals, they give you compensation. Others don't, but I guess that's it. I'm not getting paid a lot for it, but
I am just like, because we're in America, we're not so lucky to have a government that funds our film industry in the same way as Canada. So I'm just curious, like, as your perspective of a Canadian filmmaker, what was the process like getting that kind of funding together?
It's a lot of writing, and like making pitch decks. Yeah, we're actually very lucky up here in the north. Like we get quite a few grant foundations. There's not as many investors as that I know of, but there's like Toronto Arts Council, Canada Arts Council, Ontario Arts Council. So that's just in one area. That's not even including like Bell Fund and like Harold Greenberg Fund. Like there's so many different types. And luckily now they're headed towards more of like representation. So if you have like a BIPOC story or a minority story, whether it's queer, LGBTQ plus kind of thing, as long as the story, like it seems like what you're doing, you have your own vision and it's like plausible, they'll most likely give you the money kind of thing for any people wanting to make movies in Canada, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, then for any of the American filmmakers, how'd you get it done in a system without that? How'd you get your film together?
I'll go. So I started out in the industry working in film development and assisting producers and a creative associate. And then I started to focus on acting. And so then I quit that part of the industry and became a hostess at a hotel. And then from that, I've worked every job imaginable, you know, at a spa. And then I worked for, I was a teaching artist for underprivileged kids. And then I also worked a season at NBC for showrunners. And that also kind of helped develop my writing. And every project that I've ever produced or created, one of the first questions is, oh God, how cheap can I make this? You know, if I have a really good story, you know, what are the locations I can use? You know, who are my friends that are going to support me and I can rally, you know, into it. So all of my projects that I've created have always been on a shoestring independent budget. And I just really try to make the story as great as it can be and bring in really talented actors and an awesome crew. So that's how I get it done. And then, you know, the money that I make at my odd jobs, I put into my film, or I'll find a friend who's an incredible executive producer, like on Biased, to help support it. So yeah, I just do what I have to do to get it made.
Okay.
So my day job is as a writer, so I'm lucky in that sense. So I used to do TV writing, so I have some money coming in from that. But primarily, my main source of income is I sold my memoir this past year to a big publisher. And so I primarily just work on the writing of it. And so I do these documentaries, these social justice documentaries, because you know, I feel like that's my way of giving back to the community. I can usually raise about half the budget through community groups. I've never been really lucky getting grants or anything like that, you know, but I have been pretty lucky in terms of getting community support, like, you know, nonprofits and individuals donating. And I can usually cover about half the budget with that. And the other half, I just sort of assume is a loss. So, but it's fine. I mean, it's my way of giving back to the community. So.
I'll go. I work in commercial video production in LA. And so I am just working in production period all the time. I get to meet a lot of people. And when I do get to hire people, I give them their full rates so that when I go, I want to make like a film like this, I make good connections and good relationships and good friendships. And two, like, I basically just ask for like lower rates and favors. I don't want to give people nothing. So I just, you know, save up and just try to give my team something. And I pull favors from like locations, I pull favors from anyone I know, and we just cobble together and just get together for this 1 or 2 day shoot, and then we go for it. And then the rest is just that, just saving. I don't intend to make any money off these films right now.
Sorry to interject, but I just have a question in general. Like, what is this is open to anyone, what is your favorite moment of the filmmaking process? And especially the film that you submitted to our festival, like what would you say the most rewarding part of the process is for you?
I'll answer that. I think the best part is, you know, coming up with all this footage and then feeling like you don't know what the hell you're going to do with it all. And then suddenly when everything falls into place, like just by shifting one scene or two, and everything just miraculously seems to like work. I think it's just finding that moment. It's like, you know, realizing your vision, you know, so for me, that's always the most fulfilling moment.
Yeah, you are the sole documentary filmmaker we have in our current chat, Curtis. So it is interesting, like the perspective of how, no, I'm just saying, like, this is a question more that I'm kind of launching off of, but like the perspective of how you kind of shape a piece, is it more in the discovery, you collect footage and then you put it together, or is it more like you have a script and you kind of assemble the footage based on your needs?
Well, for me, I mean, because I have narrative experience from both TV and books, that's all done in pre-production and production, right? I mean, documentaries are different because the writing of the story is actually done in post-production. And that's why you've got to allocate more of your budget towards that and more towards the time. So that's why I guess doing documentaries, what I'm talking about, that's that great moment. I guess the similarity would be like writing the script, you know, and saying like, oh, I figured out the character, I figured out the motive, right? It's that aha moment when everything seems to make sense. So yeah, but yeah, I'm sorry. Documentary. I guess I'm the only documentary filmmaker. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's and then comparing that, do any of the narrative filmmakers want to talk to how their kind of process of approaching a project coming together is?
I mean, I can jump on after Curtis because I actually did work with Corky in our film. I think one of the greatest moments working together with the OGs. When I mean OGs, like these gentlemen like Wing Lee, Tai Ma, Henry Chang, Corky, amongst a lot of them, just seeing them work together as friends and helping Henry Chang project come alive was very like a gift to the community, and to show that they're actually supportive of each other after years of wanting him to achieve this part of his life. That was like the most rewarding to see that experience. And what was your question again after that?
I mean, it's just, I have a bunch of other questions of just like how, because you're also in a unique place of you're the only one who adapted another text. So it is just like, was your scripting process, you just went back to the books, or did you kind of approach it more as its own adaptation? What was how did you adapt this book series, I guess?
Oh, I mean, I kind of took the approach like Whiplash. Like I want to adapt it a short film of some of the lines and some of the scenes from the book. I don't want to adapt it 100% because, for future purposes. But we did adapt it from book 1 and 2, Chinatown Beat and Year of the Dog. And once I wrote it, I gave Henry the copy of the script to get his blessing, his permission, see if it's okay to, clear off these, scenes, if it's okay with him. And he really enjoyed the script and the story itself, because it has like a meaning, impactful ending of what's the repercussion of, joining a street gang and how it, affected a family in Chinatown.
Yeah. And not to like keep asking you questions, but like you were saying with the OG Asians, I mean, your film has a amazing cast. I mean, you got Zima, the busiest Asian dad in all of Hollywood. You got him to be in your film. Ronnie Chang, amazing stand-up comic, doing a really good Columbo impression. It's just like, how did you assemble? Like, how did you get all these people on a shoestring independent budget?
I mean, we were very fortunate because we raised 50 grand on Kickstarter. I was very shocked because we asked for 40 and it then exceeded over that, because everyone who contributed was the Asian American community, people from BAAFF, Henry's friends. They all really want to chip in and just help produce this project. So without them, this project wouldn't have been made. Ty actually came on board because him and Henry, they go way back. They know each other since they were 18 years old. So they have a long history of friendship. So without a doubt, Ty read the script and he wanted to help us and the community and to, help uplift me as a filmmaker. So that was very, generous of him, and then it trickled down to like Perry Young and the late Jeff Lee and the late Corky Lee. And then Ronnie, it was funny because he always jokes about it. He always talks about he hates Twitter, but we cast him because of Twitter. He retweeted the Kickstarter project, and a mutual friend of ours, Shuhei Kinoshita, introduced us because I was asking Shuhei or even Ronnie, like, does he even speak Cantonese? So, we had email chats, and I finally met him in person, and he submitted a tape of him reading, us aside, and he was actually a right fit for the role because he looks really worn down, and he had that look of the detective, and plus he has this scar right here that Jack has in the book. So it was a perfect fitting, and when Ronnie came on board, he actually met everyone for the first time, Corky, Tai Ma, Perry. So for him, it was also a wonderful experience to meet these people from a different generation.
How do you hire your actors? I mean, you don't pluck people off the street or anything like that, but how do you do your cast selection?
I can, so my actors, let's see, there's David Jung, who's the lead character. He plays Bernard. And David and I met on a web pilot. We're actually really close friends. He's actually my, in real life, apartment manager and plays the apartment manager in the film. And one great trivia thing that I like to tell people is that he was the first US air guitar champion. And there was a documentary about that. And he was one of the main characters or main actors and people in it. So, and then Elaine Cow and I did a play probably maybe a little bit over 10 years ago, called Sun Sisters. That was at Company of Angels here in Los Angeles. Charles Kim is, you know, we had mutual friends and I saw him do some stand-up comedy. And so I wanted him to be a part of it. And Jonathan Oye and Jeff Marshalletta, we met in acting class with Larry Moss. And so I knew all of their training, their personalities and their work. And so I wanted to bring them all on.
Anyone else? I mean, Kyle, you cast a child in your film. Is that like the process of finding a good child? I mean, that's the classic expression, never work with children or animals. And you worked with a child in your film. How did you find him?
I'm gonna be straight up, man. Like everybody in the film pretty much is somebody that I know. Like the whole family in my film is basically my family, my real life family. And it was hard, man. Like it's already hard to find a kid, but to find a kid that's Filipino that does acting is almost impossible where I am. And especially like somebody that knows like the culture of the place that I was filming in was pretty hard. So like that kid was like the first kid that I saw. It was like a friend's son. And I only saw about like 7 kids altogether. And he wasn't exactly the part, like he didn't actually he wasn't like a replicate of what I was actually thinking about. So I basically just forged the whole script around him and tailored it more to his kind of personality, which worked out in the end because he is pretty like, well, at least at that point of his life, he was very, innocent kind of looking. And then, yeah, like I have experience working with kids before. Like I worked a ton with kids in Taiwan and a little bit in Canada. So it wasn't too hard. Like I'm kind of a kid myself, so it wasn't too hard. But yeah, everybody, like I couldn't find anybody basically. And then at one point, like he was the only person that came to audition the first day out of like 4 to 6 hours. Nobody else came to auditions. And then after, it was just like, it was either I give up at that point or I just, cast my family and see how it goes, because it's kind of like based off of family parties that I've been to and, the people that I know. So at the end, it all worked out. Like they all came together and it was like a huge party and they haven't like that whole family never seen each other in a long time. So it was a nice, wholesome event.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the power that filmmaking can have, this community of all these different workers. So much we talk about the auteur theory of the director, but it really is this collaborative process with all these different people bringing their own strengths. I mean, Kwan, do you want to hop in and talk a bit? Just because like you and Patrick are the ones who wrote distinct period pieces. You also both wrote 90s period pieces. So like in crafting a film around that, how much of reality compared to making it period accurate, like how is that thought process working?
I mean, for me, definitely like this happened because the film based on the true event, right? So the first step for me was just like to do my research, right? I have to look around for all the docs, and also I did a lot of interviews with the people who really got involved with into the event, the historical event. So definitely, I took their memories and their perspective to see what happened in the past, then put everything together to try definitely to make this looks like what happened like 30 years ago. And also like our PD group like did a lot of work for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
Where
really
did you
proud
shoot
of
the
them.
film?
Definitely we shot the film in LA, like pretty far away from the center of LA. Yeah.
It was very challenging to shoot something based on Henry's book, based on 1993, because New York Chinatown is very gentrified. Everything has changed or has been stripped or has gone. So I was very fortunate to have Vera Child as the costume designer to get that 90s look. Wing Lee, who's been production designing since, God knows when, helped made it very authentic because he grew up in Chinatown and he was helping us to make the look of it, this nostalgic of what it should look like and not very oriental, like how Hollywood depicts New York Chinatown all the time, like in Law and Order and all that stuff. And then our DP, Jason Chu, got these special lenses to make it very vintage, to give that little Hong Kong nostalgic look to it. So during on set, I mean, luckily we had some connections to certain stores like Hopkey to shoot, you know, in the 90s, because they haven't changed. But other times on the street, it was difficult because we got all this car parked across the street. That's a 2012 car. We can't shoot that. So we always have to change the angles or try to work around our environment to adapt that, what Henry wrote in the book.
Yeah, for sure. And it just makes me think, trying to get Kuya in the conversation here, your film is also so centered on the town and the community and the space that you're in. How kind of is your piece? I mean, it's called Big Trouble in Little America, very much a play on Big Trouble in Little Chinatown, you know? So just like, how was that, sculpting that process around Chinatown that you were shooting and making, how was that process like? A more modern take, you know?
Well, because I'm Chinese and I was a graduate student in Temple in Philadelphia, and to be honest, like I'm not sure if you guys are very familiar with this, but like there's always a small circle of Chinese people when there's a school, there are Chinese people in it. And Chinatown is like our home base. Like we go there to eat all the time and boba tea and like karaoke. So yeah, it's basically, it's so important because for me and for the main character of the film, I feel like it's where she's found like the safest. Like even she can get anything from Target somewhere else, she still rather go there. And it's, yeah. And I don't know, I feel like I do want to have this like very authentic local vibe of the film. Like there's one thing towards the end of the movie, there's this like apartment and there was like a fire alarm and all the Chinese just came downstairs, and you have a whole thing with like all the East Asians standing outside the door. And that's like a real thing that happened when I was in Philly. Like I live in like a dorm that's majority of the residents were Chinese, and there's this whole fire alarm, and I went home and like everybody's Chinese outside. And I'm like, not Chinese, sorry, like East Asian outside. I'm like, what? And it's just so funny to me, and I really want to capture that in the film. Just I don't know. I feel like that's the joke that Americans can't really make, but I can make it because I'm Chinese. That's it.
Yeah, and just thinking around films set in Chinatown. I mean, Maneki is another one that it's directly set in this authentic Chinese business. And while you were devising the process, how did you kind of try to bring that authenticity to your story?
So first off, in the script, it was originally going to be a tea shop, like a boba shop. And then I had a friend who recommended me to a friend who owns a ramen shop in Little Tokyo in LA. And I immediately jumped on that because I just wanted something different because at least for me, from my perspective, I see a lot of short films based in boba shops these days, and I'm tired of it. So I thought a more modern ramen shop would be super cool. It's kind of I don't really see too many like LA Japanese locations in films. It's called My Ramen Bar in Little Tokyo on First Street. It's like a few doors down from Daikokuya. So it was super cool. I met the owner. Yeah, I just thought, I mean, I'm half Japanese and I really want to see more of that kind of like imagery in Asian American filmmaking. So I thought this was the perfect place to do it.
Well, a lot of really good points were brought up about like having, you know, the ramen shop imagery, but also seeing like an authentic Chinatown and, you know, the issue of not being able to find like child actors. And that's it's more of a statement, but one thing I love about seeing everyone's movies and BAAFF is the amount of representation and the possibility that it could inspire, you know, future filmmakers and actors and producers and future projects, so that you'll have like a line out the door of Asian American like young actors that you can pick from. But I think it leads me to a question about because we have different genres and different stories, whether it's adapted screenplay or original. We have the dramedy, drama, documentary. We have a noir film. So where, and this is for everybody, but where do these ideas come from? Like where does the idea generation before you even get to the script? And, do you have a process for jotting these down or noting them? Do you journal? Do you put it on a computer? Do you storyboard? Like, what is your process?
Well, I can talk about documentaries. I mean, as I said before, the process is a bit different. You start off with a general idea of a topic that you're interested in and you want to explore, knowing that while you do have certain ideas in mind, you should be open to letting the story unfold itself and to follow it. So I think that is the challenge of being, open enough to sort of go with your guts to sort of follow it. We had a unique situation with the Dear Corky film because it was actually part of a larger project that we were doing about Chinatowns in general. And so we had mapped that out to cover, I think, like 6 different cities, an individual in each city covering one particular aspect about the current challenges facing different Chinatowns. When COVID hit, we were sort of forced to shut down because physically we couldn't travel anymore. But the second point is I think the issues in the community had changed. It was no longer about gentrification or overcrowded schools and some of these other things that communities were facing, but now it suddenly became about hate crimes. And so we had to be open to that. And we sort of sat around and waited, thinking, okay, well, we've got all this footage. We can't do anything. Let's see how things, pan out after the pandemic is over. Sadly, we didn't realize that, one of our stars of our film, Corky, would sadly pass away from the disease or the virus. And so we had to make a decision. We had all this really intimate footage of him, which actually was not even the main stuff, because we have all this footage of him talking about Chinatowns, which we aren't using anywhere. But we had also been lucky enough to talk to him about his personal story. And we basically took that footage and we made this new film. So the film that we're showing at BAAFF really was not the film that we started to make, but the circumstances sort of forced us into doing that. But again, I think this is unique to documentary filmmaking, as opposed to the scripted work that you guys do. So.
And Curtis, can I say, like, I know Corky and I've seen the film a couple of times, but for you to capture, because anyone who knows Corky, he's not very open about his personal life. So for you to capture that is very like a true gem and treasure. And thank you for doing that, man, because usually he would talk about everyone else, all the community, but not himself. And for that's part of history that needs to be told. Thanks for really showing that to us. Thank you.
Something for Andrea that I thought about in your film is it is so character driven, and it's so based on it was almost like a stage play in that it was so much on the dynamics of the scene where characters would enter with one energy, and then by the end of the scene, the energy had shifted, just kind of good old fashioned construction of scenes, In your scripting, how did you kind of approach writing a story like that, where it's so much about different characters' dynamics bouncing off one another?
Yeah, so my first writing project for myself was I wrote a one-woman show based on my life growing up in Florida and my parents and what I went through with that. So a lot of writings that I studied were plays, actually, on stage as an actor. And so I think it just kind of seeps into my writing, like you had mentioned. For this particular story, like we were talking about odd jobs. So I was an apartment manager for a 48-unit building here in Larchmont. And that experience always stayed with me. And the dialogue and the questions and the answer. So I just wanted to create a story, based on that time. And then also it's the why of it. And I think for me, it was like, why did this owner give me the power to decide who was going to get a certain apartment? And I think we all, of course, have our own experiences and biases. And so to stay neutral can be a very difficult thing in that scenario. So yeah, so that's how I came
Yeah,
about.
and it's just you found such a way to show the comedy of that absurdity. And it's just like, I am a comedian, as I've said, comedy is my love. So it's just like your film, Maneki, Big Trouble in Little America, Lonely Afternoon. Sadly, 1992 was a little too serious to be considered a comedy, but like all these films are trying to create levity, you know, trying to brighten in such a dour world, you know, that we're living in. Can you talk about your approach to comedy and just like what makes you laugh and what do you try to put into your script comedy wise? I mean, like there's comedy in all film. There were comedic moments in A Father's Son even. It's just like, so it is like, I don't want to, I mean, Ronnie Chang is one of the most hilarious people alive, you know, so it's just working with a comedian in a dramatic role, you know, maybe that's something you can talk to. I don't know. I'll let people talk though.
Well, we got to strip it down. Like sometimes Ronnie has these tendency to be Ronnie Chang, and we're like, Ronnie, stop. You know, got to go back to Jack Yu. But luckily, Ronnie understands the process, and I mean, he's not a professional actor per se, but he respected the craft, he respected his colleagues, and he respected the text. So when there was moments that didn't work for me or for us, he will always ask questions. You know, and I think like any inspiring actor, you should ask questions to the directors or the writer. So, you know, I get what you're saying, that there were some moments, but I guess once we said cut, there were much more funnier moments behind the scenes than on the scenes. And it was a real gem to have him because, you know, he would crack jokes, you know, in between takes. Yeah.
So with time as a consideration here right now, and I want to make sure everyone has a chance to answer this, what are some, obviously these are the projects that you've submitted to our festival, but what, for each of you, what are some current projects you're working on that you would like to kind of advertise or just talk about?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I want to back up to the Michael's question a little bit. Like, I'm an international student all the time and I travel a lot. Like as an international filmmaker, wherever I go, I would like to do some local film, local stories about where I live. So that's the reason why I did like in 1992, just in case you didn't know, like which is a story based on the LA riots, happened like 30 years ago from the Korean perspective. That's the reason why. If I was in Boston, like maybe I would definitely gonna do a Boston story for my like short film in recent years. And also back to your question, like yeah, I'm working on my first feature right now. It's a story like basically happened like also based on a true story. So we're still in the development for the script. I hope like I can make it in recent years. And if you like our short film, then you know what to watch next time, maybe.
I'll also answer Michael and Nate's questions about like the comedy and the I guess the work behind it. My film was like based off of a memory that I had, and I just wanted to make something that was feasible and small and contained. So, and I guess this kind of ties into Nate's thing with the comedy. Like the way I work is very collaborative. So it's not just me, it's like my whole team, my whole crew, the cast, even like whoever has like an idea, or if somebody does something funny, I'll just say, let's next take, let's try it in the next take, or just keep on doing it. Like even with how silly it is, like there's a scene with like all the uncles, and then there's like a iPad that gets put on a sleeping uncle, and like that uncle wasn't sleeping at the beginning, he's just very shy, so he was acting pretty badly, so I just told him to pretend to sleep. And then after one of the actor that put the iPad on him was like a comedian also, so he just did it jokingly at the end, and everybody was kind of like, what the hell is this guy doing? But I was like, no, keep it up, man. Like that's pretty stupid and funny. Like my humor is pretty humorous, stupid like that. But and what was the last question again? Oh, future projects. I'm working on a lot of like smaller projects. I have like another film that's in festival circuit right now. It kind of has a little bit of comedy in it. And I have like 2 smaller projects. These are like 3 projects that I've been doing without any money and like very little resources, and just seeing what I can make just by myself and like 2 actors kind of thing. And then next year I got money to make a horror film that's based off of like Filipino folklore. So I'm looking forward to do that.
That sounds really awesome. We've had a few of the, I forgot the name of the thing now. Aswang. Is that the, yeah, we've had a few.
Yazwang.
But yeah,
Yes.
Nango.
Yeah, those are actually the two monsters that I'm focusing on. And it's just like in the Western, like done in the Western, or I guess in Toronto, basically. The stories. Yeah.
We'd like to point out, we do have the After Dark blocks for.
Yeah.
Plug it.
And
Showcased a lot of horror.
Yeah.
in that block.
And we've
Definitely gotta
also
check it out.
put features in that block too. So a whole
Father Son is in
horror
that
feature
block, and
can
I
do it.
believe Big Trouble in Little America is in that block.
I feel like the films and stories that I'm interested in making are based in reality, and a lot of funny random stuff just kind of happens during day-to-day life. So for Maneki in particular, I just had this idea that this shop owner like sees his cashier asking out someone and then getting rejected and just being witness to that and then having to reprimand her for that. I just thought that would be such an uncomfortable, awkward, and funny moment. And the whole story basically happens between the cashier and the customer, and he's just kind of like coming in here and there and just trying to run the place. I just thought it would be funny to include him as part of like some comic relief, just because like really he just wants to run the shop, and all this stuff is happening at the front, out of his control. In terms of things that I'm working on, actually this past weekend I just filmed a new short film, a little bit moodier, a little bit more like heightened reality type of thing, about a guy who falls for his friends with benefits. So look forward to that.
I'm developing a TV series that was inspired by Biased. And then I'm also, I've co-written a script about a biracial family. It was inspired, my dad passed away last year. And so it's inspired by that. But it's still going to be a comedy. Death can be a comedy. So that's kind of my goal with that script. So those are the two projects I have right now.
So I definitely thought Big Trouble in Little America was a comedy because I feel like I did have this big sense of humor where I just find everything in life so pathetic and funny all the time. So when I was making the film, I was like really thinking about, it was my thesis grad school. So I was like, let's just make it all about myself right now. So the whole idea came from the time when I bought a secondhand mattress, which is never a good idea. And I was like super freaking out about it. And I was like doing all the type of cleansing I could do, like baking soda, like put it under the sun, like, you know, what kind of do all the time. And I just, in the process, I found it very funny. And I started like coming up with all these little images I encountered over the past 3 years when I was in America. Every like funny moments, like where there's like tons of these Asians outside my apartment, or like what else is funny? Yeah, I can't think about it here, but like what's the movie? And I just put them into like small papers and like on like cards, and I stick them on the wall. And I kind of like, it's like making a music, where like they organize them all together and trying to make the images make sense. And then I bring in the story. That's how I basically made it. I just want to make something that's like visually funny, but also kind of makes sense. And interracial, not interracial, but like international students, Chinese students in America is always something I really want to talk about, because for the longest time, I feel like people think we are so quiet and so like to ourselves, but we are human beings. We have sexy white dreams and we are funny. So that's something I want to kind of talk about. Yeah, and so after I graduated from grad school, I jumped into the video game industry and became a writer, and it wasn't fun. But I do kind of love interactive storytelling. So I'm working on a video game with my friends right now. It's about this sexy sexy female demon that's like, you know, going into man's dreams and like having sex with them. Is that, can I say that on camera? And but it's kind of like about perfume, but also about therapy, but also about this whole, there's this whole trend in China right now that young girls, they like their love stories super hallmark. They like their love stories super clean and like everybody's like virgin and everything. And then like that's stupid. So I want to create like a universe where it's collapsing because the one's having sex, and this whole sexy demon is like helping out by, you know, doing some sex therapy. And that's what I'm working on right now.
Currently I'm not working on anything. I'm just writing my first feature film. I've been working on it for a couple of years. I want to get it right. It's about Chinatown. But I think after, I won't say after the pandemic, we're still on a pandemic. I think during the pandemic, I think a lot of effects and actions has been rifted through our community that I think it's a good way to tell a story that has been told before. And anyone who's seen my work, I try to make it authentic as possible, especially for the Cantonese American community. So I'm working on that. And otherwise, just doing some local community projects, you know, in the works for Chinatown, things like that, trying to get the OGs involved, you know, as much as possible, like Henry, Wing. So unless something comes up, like a short film someone wants me to produce or direct, but I'm just focusing on writing because I think after A Father Son, people have been encouraging me to start, you know, doing a bigger project, you know, so it's good to hear encouraging thoughts. Yeah.
Is there any possibility for more of the Henry Chang verse, you know, continuing it?
I mean,
you got more books.
Yeah, he has all 5. No, I mean, that's the reason why we did it, because we wanted to get it out there for audiences to see, and maybe some producers or network to take interest. There has been eyes on it, luckily. It's just Henry's call, you know. But then, you know, since the pandemic happened, everything shifted. You know, there's no more in-person screening and things like that. But we're very grateful that we had our New York premiere in person, and we're also coming to BAAFF on October to see everyone. So with that in thought, we're really crossing our fingers that Henry, you know, books gets picked up as a TV show, because there's no way you can do a feature film for each book, because anyone who read Detective Jack Yu, there's so many characters, like so many, and Henry wants to, you know, do justice to his characters as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, thank you for organizing this. This has been a real pleasure. I think that the comments I want to make about the Dear Corky film was that I think for me and the other people working on the film, in particular, you know, my co-conspirator, Ken Eng, who's actually a Boston native, will be at the festival too. We felt really honored that Corky trusted us with his story and that he opened up to us, you know, and I think that's part of the personal relationship that we each had with him. I'd known Corky for close to 30 years, you know, and I think it's just that trust level and the sense that, you know, because, you know, both Ken and I are also from Chinatowns, that there was simpatico there, but we felt really honored, and you know, we had that footage, and that's why we really want to make sure that we got it out there, and we got it out in a timely fashion, you know, so that people could continue his story and his legacy, because there's so much happening in the community that we just wanted to make sure that we didn't, you know, drop the ball in that way. And so it's been interesting being able to show the film in different community spaces where we would normally have Corky there, like whether it was the OCA convention or the Asian American Journalists Association convention, or, you know, these film festivals. It's like you just always expect him to be popping up around the corner. And I think that for us, being able to show the film in these different spaces, hopefully is, you know, just a reminder that Corky is still around. I mean, his physical body may not be here, but his legacy is definitely here, and all the things that he did for the community and his spirit. And so we feel honored that we've been able to do that for him. And, you know, hopefully with, you know, people watching the film, that they will, someone out there will want to carry on the mantle of all the work that he did. So, you know, so we just feel very, very honored, you know, to be able to get this film out there and to get it out there to as many people as possible. So thank you to BAAFF for including us in your festival. In terms of projects to plug. As I mentioned earlier, my main project, my day job is writing. And so I sold my memoir, and it's called Everything I Learned in a Chinese Restaurant. And it's about growing up in my family's, chop suey joint in Detroit. So it's about being Asian in a very black and white world, and also coming out, to my working class family. And so, yeah, it was really exciting. It went for a big auction, all these different houses competing for it. So it's going to be a big title coming out fall 2023. I'm just really, really excited about it. And I don't know. I mean, some people have murmured that could possibly be turned into a TV series. So we'll see. That would be really wonderful. But right now, I just turned it in about 2 weeks ago. And so legal has just approved it. And now it's just going to copy editing. And so that's my big project that I'm working on. And so that will also tell the story of, I think, a different side of the Chinese American experience, or Cantonese American experience, being from the Midwest, and being queer.
Hi, writer director of the film Dealing with Dad. It's based on my experiences trying to get my dad out of depression. Yeah, it's a feature film, and I hope you guys might be able to see it on opening night.
So yeah, my question, Tom, before you got here was essentially, and it's one that very directly applies to your film, but like, how do you craft the comedic moments, especially in a film like yours that's such a balance between comedy and drama? How do you find levity? What's your approach to levity? What makes you laugh, essentially?
Oh, wow. I would say that real people make me laugh. I think part of it is because I live kind of a crazy family, and I have a lot of friends who are just that I'm attracted to. They're just naturally funny, or we find things funny. And so for my film, it was really about just trying to find humor out of reality. I wrote for sitcoms for like 4 seasons, and I found some of the stuff that I worked on just maybe over the top. I really enjoy films where the comedy just kind of comes out of like the real situations where you like the characters, you want to follow these characters, and because you like the characters, their quirks and everything is what and the things that they do when they interact, it's what makes things funny. Not so much some sort of over the top wacky set piece or anything like that. So I find a lot of humor in just the quirks of people, I think, and characters. And in the case of my film, I also have some really funny actors. Ali Mackey, Hayden Seto, Peter Kim, even Dana Lee, and then guys like Karan Soni, people like that. And so they brought their own funny to the characters as well. And so when we would do our scenes, we do a few takes, and I'd make sure they would stick to the points of what I wanted in dialogue, and then I would let them go. And then they would just kind of go off and like bring in their own, like, what they felt the character might say. They were just really funny. So I'd say maybe 20% of the funny lines, or 25% of the funny lines in our film is just because the actors decided to be that character and kind of riff a little bit. So, so part of it is in the script and what I write, and part of it is also from the actors.
Gotcha. And then what do you got to plug?
So I have a couple things. The things I'm working on, I have 3 feature scripts I want to get off the ground, but we'll see what happens after we actually release the film. But I'm working on a sequel to my last feature film before this, called Find Me. Was filmed about a guy chasing a girl who leaves clues for him in national parks across the West. We shot in Yosemite, Zion, and Death Valley. And now the sequel is going to be about a bunch of inner city kids from Oakland, California, who decided to go see outdoors. Our first film did so well that we felt like a sequel, there's an audience for the sequel. And the second thing that I'm working on, at the last Boston Asian American Film Festival, my short, the Loyal Betrayal, played. It's a film noir set in the Japanese internment camps in World War II. That short was actually a short based on a feature script that I wrote with another guy named Koji Sakai, who's really knows the Japanese American community. And so we want to shoot a feature version of this film, this black and white film noir. So that's the thing that we're hoping to get off the ground.
It sounds like you're very busy and have a lot of good ideas coming out here.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us and taking some time in your afternoon or mornings or nights even to be with us. So we'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here and for making the films that we've watched. Boston Asian American Film Festival runs from the October 21st to the 31st. Tickets at BAAFF.org, our newly renovated website. If you want to check that out for tickets or information, I definitely encourage you to do that. And thank you again, and hope to see you all soon.